And the motives on the Ukrainian side was to defend their territory. Honorable, both ways. I have no problem with either one. I think, you know what, I would defend my territory as well. But now, the Russian troops made it all the way to Kiev, and they had talks with Zelensky, and they came to an agreement that the people of the Donbass and areas like that were going to be treated with respect, no longer treated like they were animals. They were going to be no longer excluded from following their Orthodox religions. They were no longer going to be closing down and jailing their priests and other members of clergy. All of that was pretty well etched out and was to be agreed upon. I believe that would have been in Istanbul. They were walking away with an almost ironclad agreement. And then somebody who isn't even in a place of power, who is an ex-person of power in the UK, went to Zelensky and said, that's not acceptable to us. You're going to fight these guys right to the last man. We're going to supply you with all the weaponry you need, everything you need to conquer them. You're going to win this. And we have the backing of this nation and that nation as well. So you're well covered. So Zelensky never went to the last moment of signing that into concrete. And so it continued. And it continued with a whole lot more momentum and a whole lot more capabilities brought to bear. So from the very beginning, these two sides were trying to work along the rules of engagement that are set by the rest of the world, whether it be United Nations or whatever else. Sorry, I have to check this out. Why? I don't know why it went this terrible route. Anyways, I'm not going to second guess it, because I'll tell you, every time I second guess the Tesla nav system, I end up getting stuck in a worse situation. So usually it anticipates everything up ahead quite well and determines the route based on circumstances ahead of us. Okay, so moving along in this special military operation, in the beginning, Ukraine unfortunately was throwing their military prowess up against a Russian brick wall. And that prowess was being eliminated so quickly. We heard about the exchange of vanquished warriors on either side. And from the very beginning, it was such a lopsided exchange. It told the story on the battlefield. When 5,000 people are being exchanged from the Russians to the Ukrainians, and the Ukrainians are returning like 500, 132, it was evident that things were not going well. But the Western media was saying nothing but, fabulous, everything's going perfect, we got this under control, Ukraine is winning, support Ukraine, give more money from all these peripheral countries. And I said to people back then, do you not think there's a possibility that the United States establishment wants to degrade Europe to the point where they're never going to be a threat to the United States in any way, economically, militarily, or any other way? That was my thought process way back in the day. It's looking like I was right. The United States orchestrated the bombing of the pipeline, which basically choked Europe from a cheap supply of fuel, which allowed them to be viable on the world market as far as what they were producing. So they were able to have a GDP that was actually quite high. So Europe was a pretty big economic power. After cutting that pipeline, that power has been diminished horribly since then. as we know, they had many, many struggles in that regard after the cutting of the pipeline. So Ukraine's progress. They run into a small area of Russia. They took it over. The area was almost devoid of any military targets whatsoever. Like, I don't even think there was any military targets there. There were mostly a lot of old people, stuff living in that area. And the stuff that was going on would be called atrocious and war crimes again. Then Russia brought in North Koreans and asked them to keep the perimeter. And they went in and started exterminating all the Ukrainian soldiers that were there. And some of them were mercenaries coming from other countries. I don't know why they would volunteer to invade a portion of Russia. It made no sense to me, because the result was exactly as you can imagine. They were all wiped out. Many, many soldiers and mercenaries were wiped out in that area. Took a while, but that's because, as we were told by Sergei Lavrov and others in the upper echelons of the Russian establishment, were saying Russia does not want to set their people in harm's way. We're not looking to throw a whole bunch of Russians against the wall and see what sticks. We're looking to make sure that we can serve as many Russian lives as possible and still win at our special military operation. And they showed by taking 20% of the Ukrainian soil in short order. I don't know what everybody else expected to happen. It made no sense to me from the beginning that these people would be pushing Ukraine into a war that obviously they couldn't win. So many Ukrainians left their homeland because of this. So many, like huge numbers. We're not talking about hundreds or thousands. We're talking about millions upon millions upon millions left. Went to neighboring countries, went overseas, went to the United States, came to Canada. I don't think very many of them are going to want to go back. But now we see that some of these other countries are trying to force them to return. Philanthropy in the West never really brings philanthropy. There's always an ulterior motive. So there's something that Europe and the rest of them were planning by having the big exodus of Ukraine. I don't know what it is, but I do know that some of the big corporations in the United States and elsewhere were just salivating at the prospect of investing and taking over huge swaths of Ukraine so that they could harvest the minerals, the agriculture, and everything that Ukraine had to offer. I don't know why Ukraine didn't see that coming. I saw that coming way back. All in all, in my own humble opinion, I do not believe that it was a good move on Ukrainians' part to allow this to escalate to this level. And it looks to me at this point that the next stage of this special military operation is to end the special military operation and start with a full war effort to protect every life in the Russian country. If anybody is unaware about how huge that country is, it's a very difficult country to defend. So when you hear that there are breakthroughs, don't be surprised. There's so many holes in the borders of Russia, with so many countries bordering all around them. It's so easy to get into the country, but to hold that ground is proving to be really difficult. I said from the very beginning, I was talking on set with, there was actually 2 Ukrainians and a Russian, and we were talking about this. And the Russians were talking about what the direction of this special military special military operation was going to be. And the Ukrainians, who were actually of first Russian descent, were saying, we hope and pray that Russia takes over Odessa, Donbass, and a few other territories they mentioned, because there are tons of Russians there being slaughtered. Now, these are from people that I work with on movie set. We're not talking about pundits or news journalists of any kind. These are regular people who live in the area and know more about what's going on than most of us do. They're praying that those regions get relieved from Ukrainian rule so that they could live normal, humble lives and worship the way they wish to worship and build a prosperous society like they had been building for the Ukrainians. So these are Ukrainian Russians. They're first and foremost, they call themselves Ukrainians, but their roots are definitely first and foremost Russian. And they're still of the opinion that these areas needed to be liberated. Folks, I don't know about you. Please do your research. Don't just listen to the Western media. As we know, 96% or so of all Western media is run by 6 big corporations and ruled by 6 people. So if that's the case, every little bit of information that comes down from the top is meant to shape the narratives. So be careful what you believe. And I look more towards those people who are risking their lives to get the information to us with no real outlook for massive gains. It's what they chose to do as a human being, be journalists, and try to get the real information to the people. So give them some credit. And also stand up when you see them being threatened by any country or any authorities. These people are journalists. They all should be respected. I don't care if you're journalists on the Western media side or you're journalists in the independent side or whatever side you're a journalist on. Your integrity should be respected. And even if you're reporting and you're reporting lies or improper or partial information, there's still no reason why you guys should be targeted. And everybody in the world should be stepping up for those people. Uh-oh. That's the police officer. Who is he after? Because he just went by us like a bat out of hay. Folks, please like, subscribe, share. You know what? Make sure that we are going to start moving forward. I'm trying my best to keep my words proper so we don't get shadow banned. We don't get removed from the platform. I've been in YT jail many times. I've been in Facebook jail many times. I just want you guys to start becoming 1585ers. That's all. Those of you who are not, I hope that one of these days you will be joining us as a 1585. Those of you who are, you know the significance and you know how important you are to the masses. Keep doing what you do. So folks, stay safe, stay healthy, and above all, stay as happy as humanly possible. And we'll get back at you another time.